Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 29 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you once again from the international headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. As we look forward to having some great discussions in the coming weeks and months, we simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization this week and have Tracy and Dot Lodge with us today. Cam is the current president of the board, and Dot is the vice president of the board for the Gaston County Art Guild. Cam and Dot, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to get right to the questions, and maybe, Cam, we'll start with you. Just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you feel like sharing.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Again, my name is Tracy. I've lived in Gaston County for 35 years. That's
Wow.
hard to believe. Yes. Did work for the Gaston Regional Chamber, so got to meet so many folks all over the county.
I think that's where we first met.
Yes, where we first met, and it's a great county. Been part of the Gaston County Art Guild for the past 10 years.
Okay.
Learned a lot, have met a lot of wonderful artists. I love all the amenities here of Gaston County and the diversity. It's a great area to be.
Great, thank you. Dot, how about you? What can you tell us about yourself, ma'am?
Well, I'm a longtime educator. I retired from Gaston County Schools after 35 years and got involved in the Art Guild just because I was retired. I had time to do it.
Okay.
As a relative newcomer, I got tapped to be vice president because, of course, like all good organizations, the Art Guild looks for new people and tries to bring them in. And
I know what you mean.
It has been a good experience.
Okay, well, very good. Well, again, I appreciate you sharing that. So maybe go back to you, Doc. How did you, you kind of just mentioned it, but how did you end up getting involved with the Art Guild? And this is in the second part of that is maybe for both of you. It may not have been on the question, so my apologies, but maybe share a little bit of history that you know of about the Art Guild, because it's an organization that I personally am not very familiar with, so maybe some of our listeners aren't going to be as familiar with it. But just start with, how did you end up here? What kind of path, other than just retirement, what interested you about the Art Guild?
Well, I started taking art lessons, and the studio where I was taking quit doing it. They folded. So the Art Guild hosts plein air painting every Wednesday morning. All are welcome.
Okay.
And I got involved with that and just met a bunch of really lovely people. And it's so much fun to go out in the community and paint, because anybody that sees you wants to stop and talk and find out what you're about. And so really it was the plein air group that got me involved and started with Art Guild.
Okay. Well, thank you. Cam, what about you? What led you to where you are now with the Art Guild?
Okay. Well, I was part of the Art Guild when we were downtown at Arts on Main. I was teaching art classes there, also taking classes with Kurt Butler and teaching for Kurt Butler. I really enjoyed it. Ended up being president, I guess that would have been 4 years ago, and then changed hands. Carol Stowe was president for a couple of years, and I ended up being president again.
So you did such a great job, you're back, huh?
Well, I think it's just a matter of training new people coming into, and that's my goal right now, is just to train people.
Do you know much of the history of the organization, how long it's been around, how did it get started? Or, again, I know that wasn't a question we sent, but if you could.
Well, I can address that just a little bit, and Dorothy can add on to that.
Okay.
Actually, it's been around since 1965. It was started by Jeannie Rausch, 1965, and it was established for advancement and appreciation of visual arts, to provide opportunities for other artists to connect and to educate the community on art. That's our present goal too, just to educate the community.
Okay, so that kind of the next question was about the mission. So that was the original mission. I think you just mentioned that's the same. It's pretty much the same as it.
Same,
okay.
Except we really would like to embrace diversity, and maybe Dorothy can add on to that a little bit.
Well, we've tried to get many different types of people interested. And I hope that maybe some of our listeners today will even look at some of our shows. We've currently got, until the end of November, a miniature show in the main branch of the Gaston County Public Library, 49 miniature pieces,
Okay.
which would also make lovely Christmas presents. But there are just a diversity of different styles, different kinds of people who've entered, and it's just wonderful to have people come and see art because we don't have that many opportunities in Gaston County for that. And I think that's one of our biggest goals is to bring art to the community.
Yeah, I think even Laurel has mentioned that at Rotary recently, and being, of course, for her being her past life with the library. So you so again, I appreciate you sharing that on the mission side. What can you talk about? Maybe Cam, start with you. Talk about some of the initiatives. I'm not sure that's the right word for your organization, but initiatives or programs or just some of the things you've got going on with the organization.
Okay, I think one of the beauties of our organization right now and Gaston County is the fact that once we had to leave Arts on Main, the building was sold, we had no gallery.
Okay.
So at that time, we had to work really hard to collaborate with the community. There was no problem with the library because we always held our miniature show there. However, we have 5 juried shows during the year. Juried shows are for artists, if they're a member or not, to enter. So we had to really hit the street and find other entities to show our artwork, other venues. Gaston College stepped up. We do our Visual Harvest show there and our senior high show, which is funded by a grassroots grant. We also discovered Bliss Gallery over in Belmont. I spoke with Regina, and she was very excited about us hosting some shows there.
Okay.
And Stowe Gardens is a new venue for us. So we're very, very excited about the collaboration. Gaston County organizations have stepped forward and are working with us, and we hope to continue this collaboration and at some point perhaps find our own space too. And perhaps Dorothy can add on to that.
And we try and participate in things that are art-related in the community. For example, Moonlight on Main, of course, had, in Belmont recently, had lots of our artists whose works were chosen to be displayed. And so, we want to not only have our own shows, but try and encourage our members to participate in other events that are going on in the community.
So you mention members, is that typically you have artists that are members or just community individuals? How does that work, and is that where most of the funding comes from or your help comes from? Is that a fair question?
Yes, the Art Guild is open to anybody, whether you're an artist or not. We have some individuals that are not artists but just want to support the Guild. It's only $25 to join. You can go to our website. We're currently working on a new website that should be up and running, I'm hoping, by this spring.
Okay.
So right now we do have our website. It's a good way to just join and find out what's going on. We have a monthly newsletter that comes out with a lot of pictures, a lot of our activities. You get to meet some of our folks there as well. But the Art Guild has been around. Art, I believe, is just part of our survival. It's part of the human spirit. It gives us purpose. I'm alive, and my life has meaning.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you mentioned a couple of different, I don't know if you would call them shows or exhibits. When did those occur during the year, or are there certain times each year that occurs? Or?
We are pretty much on a schedule, and we're hoping to even expand our shows at some point. In the fall, we have our Visual Harvest, which we just completed at Gaston College. We work with the college. Lilia does all of our hanging. She's wonderful. She's one of the art teachers and a gallery director there. I won't pronounce her last name. She's from the Ukraine. It's kind of difficult. So that's a wonderful collaboration. And then we work right into our miniature show, which is our signature show for members only. And it's always been hung at the library. Okay. And as Dorothy mentioned, everything's for sale.
It's going on right now.
It is until November 30th. Okay. Yes, great show. Then we move into our spring show, The Natural View, which we will hold at Bliss Gallery and Stowe Gardens at the same time.
Okay.
We have our senior show, which is for senior high students in Gaston County, whether you're homeschooled, charter schooled, or public schooled, private schools. And we were lucky enough to get a grassroots grant for that from the state of North Carolina. We were granted $4,000 this year, so that part of that will go out in scholarships, not necessarily scholarships, but awards that students could use towards scholarships.
Is that a show that where the exhibit that has been done at the Eastridge Mall in the past, or
it was several years ago?
It's not Eastridge. Is it Eastridge Mall now, or is it still Westfield? I think it went back to Eastridge.
I think it did.
Okay.
Yes. I think it did.
Several years ago, and we had that show at Arts on Main.
Okay.
We had that building.
So this might be I like this question, but I'm not sure how you could relate to the Art Guild. But is there a specific example or story or something, some anecdotal, something you can share, whether it's a student or an artist or a family that was impacted, or just something? Maybe start with you, Dot. Is there something you can share about an experience you've had, or something that you've seen, that the Art Guild has done that said, "Wow, this made a huge impact," or something difference that you made in the community?
Well, I think the thing that I'm really proud of is the Senior High Art Show.
Okay.
And I just when you enter an art show, you get all these rules for how you have to frame your picture and hang your picture and all that kind of thing. And one of the teachers said, "You know what? Some of our students can't afford frames. Why don't we just say no frames? All you have to do is put a wire on the back to hang the picture." And I just thought, the collaboration between me, who wouldn't have even known that was an issue, and the teachers who were saying, "This is so important to my students to actually be able to go into a gallery and see their pictures hung. It doesn't matter whether they win or not." I thought that was really, really wonderful. And I really love the idea that we can award prizes, monetary prizes, both for the students and for the community artists who enter our other shows.
Yeah, I imagine that is a big deal. I mean, unfortunately, my children probably inherited my artistry gene instead of their mother's. But we have had plenty of friends of our kids that have been involved with that. And so that's a big deal. What about you, Cammie? Specific story, or maybe what you are most proud of accomplishing since you've been involved with the Art Guild?
Well, I would have to say definitely the senior show. I love the look on their face when they win the awards. We will be giving out 11 awards this year. One of them will be the board award. So I'm very excited about that. I'm really excited about our plein air group, too. Mm-hmm. We have brought in several new artists. And during COVID, this has just been the most wonderful way to connect with one another. It's quite a large group, although not all attend each week, but we go all over Gaston County, sometimes down in South Carolina. So it's just been a wonderful opportunity. And as Dorothy mentioned before, people in the community see us out. They see us working. Yeah,
that connection is something that I've witnessed during COVID, which is a word we don't like to say on this podcast, but this 21 months or whatever, the lack of connection with others. Mm-hmm. So if there's some activity like that can be done outside and you still connect with others, that's a really big deal.
It is.
There's because so many things have been, canceled, or you just can't do them, or we felt like we couldn't do them in the last 20 or 21 months or 24 months or 30 months or whatever it's been. So this is a podcast about Gaston County and why Gaston County is so great. So maybe Dot, start with you. Why would you say Gaston County is a better place because the Art Guild is here?
Well, I think one of the things that's been kind of an eye-opener for me has been the people who come to the plein air painting and they say, "Well, I'm a member of this group or that group, but we don't have as many good places to go." And we generally paint by the river or at a park. We've been to Laurel Hill Farms.
Oh, yeah. It's a great place.
We've been all over the place. And people who paint in Charlotte, or we have a member from Mooresville who say, "We just want to come here because there's so many great places to paint." And I never thought about that. I mean, I love to be outdoors. I love to be out in nature, but I never thought, "Oh, well, we just talk about where we're going to meet next week and we've got choices." And I think that's something that we in Gaston County often don't realize, that we have so many beautiful spaces outdoors to paint or to do anything.
When we live here it's easy to take all that for granted.
Yes,
because we're just so used to it. So that's a great point, and it is a unique county geographically in what we have here. Cam, would anything you add to that, or anything you would share about why Gaston County is better?
Well, I totally agree with what Dorothy said.
Okay.
We just have so many beautiful amenities here. Oh my goodness, all the creeks, the lakes, the rivers. It's hard to decide each week where we're going to go paint.
And that's a good problem to have, I would think.
It is.
And we have a lot of people who travel a good distance to come. We have a lady who just joined who recently moved from California and heard about us. And she travels from Mooresville every week to join us. So, we get a lot of people who are new to the community as well as the people who've been here for many, many years.
And I think that message is changing, at least from my perspective, the last 5 or 6 years about Gaston County. Of course, I think I've mentioned this a few episodes recently. Charlotte is the gateway, to Gastonia, just
right
for all of you Mecklenburg County listeners. But we do have, again, it's unique, and we've done a much better job of getting the word out, I think, and it's really nice to hear other people coming in to be associated with the Art Guild. So I appreciate that. Cam, maybe I'll start with you on this next question. What can you share about how you envision the organization looking like in 5 to 10 years?
Well, I hope I'm still around. I plan to be. Right now, I feel like the arts are really growing in the eastern part of the county, especially around Belmont. We end up spending a lot of time in Belmont. They seem to embrace the arts. I'm hoping that we can expand it back to Gastonia a little bit more. I feel like since we lost our space, we're not downtown very much. And
okay.
I am hoping that downtown Gastonia will embrace art too and perhaps work with us in finding a space. That's on our list right now is collaborate, get a grant written, and perhaps find a space for us so we could have workshops, a gallery, have an office perhaps, just have that presence and maintaining that presence. I think we've done very well considering all of our stuff right now is in storage.
Very good. Dot, anything you would add to that about what you might foresee? Because I assume with vice president, you're going to be president next?
No.
I think that's how it works. I've been involved with enough organizations to know that's how it works.
No,
it's just a different name depending on the organization.
No, that is not going to happen. But yes, I think for all of us, we want to have some kind of display place so that people can just come whenever they want to and look at art. And I think that's something that any community this size should have.
So it's just a location for permanent exhibits or where there's something always there, okay?
Something always there, not a permanent exhibit, but that we can have some of our shows there and bring people in and just, it's wonderful when you can just wander around and go for a meal and stop by an art gallery. Mm-hmm. And we don't have that right now,
So in case there's a listener or somebody that could help with that, what would need to happen? What kind of space are you looking for? That may not be a fair question, but can you share something like that? Because who knows? There may be somebody out there listening that might have access to a space or who might could help with that.
Well, I would say we're not too picky.
Right. We would love to have a benefactor. A space where people were walking by would be great. Okay. I'm going to Asheville in a couple of weeks, and I look forward to going to the art galleries. You can just walk up and down Asheville, and there are art galleries, and we don't have that right now except for Bliss Gallery over in Belmont. There's a gallery in Mount Holly.
Yeah.
How big of a space? Maybe that's a better question, or is that does it just depend?
Well, it would depend. However, we have discovered we do not want to have studios anymore. We had studios when we were downtown.
Right, I remember that.
Main. Mainly just a good-sized gallery, a room for workshops, perhaps classes, no more than that size of space.
And currently we have monthly meetings with presenters, and we usually meet in the Gaston County Police Community Room. Mm-hmm. We do offer workshops, and those are advertised on our website. And those are small workshops, intensive, led by, some wonderful artists. So we do have things that if somebody's interested in art, they might just want to drop into one of our meetings. Anyone's welcome, just to see who's presenting and what kind of information they're going to provide.
Okay, yeah, before we finish, we'll make sure that we clearly communicate, with the website and how they can get in touch and where they can go for that. Is there any other questions that I haven't asked or anything you'd like to share? I mean, we'll finish up coming back to the Art Guild, of course, but we have some. If we're going to shift gears a little bit, any question I haven't asked or anything else you'd like to share?
One other collaboration that we have, and we're very fortunate, is a studio owned by Janine Dibble. It's called Art by Jay over in Belmont. It's down by the marina. It's a phenomenal space. So we do collaborate with her. She has a very kind heart. She's very generous. She teaches students there, and she's been around for quite a while. We paint there during bad weather. If it's nice, we can just run down to the marina.
Okay, yeah.
So that is another wonderful collaboration.
Okay, very good. Dot, anything we haven't asked?
I'd just like to mention that we participated not only in the art part of Moonlight on Main, but the Boo Fest, which was absolutely well attended, let's say. We had masks, and the children came and made masks, and we gave away about 125 masks to kids who were very proud of their creation. So that was just a fun thing that we did. So that was
something that went on at the same time as the Moonlight on Main, I'm assuming, around Halloween, I'm assuming?
Right.
I'm pretty sharp there. I can figure that Boo Fest and Halloween, Amy.
It's a great event.
All right, before we shift gears to kind of what we call our speed round of questions about Gaston County, what advice, Cam, start with you, what advice would you give someone wanting to get involved with an organization like the Art Guild, whether it's from a career standpoint or just a volunteer standpoint? What can you share about that?
Well, definitely check out our website.
Okay.
You're always welcome to come to any of our presentations, our workshops, and please stop by any of those galleries where we are exhibiting our work right now.
Okay.
I feel like we're raising the level of the Art Guild. People are starting to buy art. It's taken a while to educate people. I see it happening over at Bliss Gallery in Belmont.
Okay.
Art of Holy Angels. People are buying artwork right now. And, of course, that's our goal is to provide opportunities for artists to display their artwork, connect with other artists, and to educate people about art and how important it is for a county. It's very important.
Absolutely. Donna, what about you? Would there anything you would share related to that question?
Well, just that you said you have no artistic bone in your body, and I would beg to disagree.
That's probably fair, yes.
So if there's not just painting, people who do sculptures, there's one member who does all of his work is leather. And if you see him, you will recognize him because he's dressed all in leather also. Okay. We have some people who do 3D art. We had a presentation a year or so ago about miniature books. I mean, just a wide variety of different media. So if there's someone that's doing something that isn't painting, that does not exclude them because we do all kinds of different
That's
art.
A great point. I appreciate you bringing that up because someone like me, a novice on this type of subject, it's probably the first thing that I think of is painting. But you're right. There's so many other things that go along with that word, especially from a engineer mind. I'm so focused on other things. So I appreciate you sharing that. So we're going to shift gears just for a couple of questions or a few questions here. And because again, this is about Gaston County, so we like to highlight some of the things that are unique to Gaston County, and we put our guest on the spot with a few questions. So this week we're going to call it, have you ever done art in Gaston County? Speed round of questions. Is that a pretty lame title for this week, Amy? Okay. All right, Dot, I'm going to start with you. What is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
I would have to say that I grew up on grape.
That's interesting.
But I can't say that I can eat it anymore. So that's kind of a no answer.
Unfortunately, know how you feel, unfortunately. But yeah, grape has been that's more than one person has said grape. And Cam, how about you?
Well, I love most types of ice cream. My favorite would be vanilla with all the toppings.
Okay.
That way I can choose what goes along with the ice cream.
Very good. Another good Gaston County question. Sundrop or Cheerwine, Cam?
Sundrop, definitely.
Sundrop.
Yes.
Of course. There's no question.
Sundrop. All right. So
Refreshing as a cup of coffee,
That's
as
right.
they used to say.
maybe
Good caffeine.
a little more syrupy
Yes.
than coffee.
Yeah.
But favorite local restaurant?
Gosh, there's so many.
That's a great point.
And
so many more than there used to be. Yes.
I live in walking distance of downtown Belmont.
Yeah.
And so I can walk downtown and kind of look around. But,
Yeah.
of course, I love Webb's. I love Bottle Tree. I love String Bean. Cherub's is great. I mean, I could just go on and on.
That was a great advertisement and very politically correct answer there, Dot. Cam, what about you? Those are all
A lot
good
of
choices.
good restaurants, although my husband and I really favor Tequilas or Viva
Okay.
Tequis.
Yeah.
He loves Mexican food, so we end up going there a lot.
Tequila's is
However,
great, yeah.
A lot of good restaurants. And one of the beauties of our plein air group is that we go out to eat afterwards.
Oh, that is
Yes.
good. Very good for you. Good for y'all. So, well, I'm going to ask this anyway. I may know the answer, but favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County? Dot, start with you.
Well, I do a lot outdoors. I love to hike. I love to kayak. I love to cycle. So I can't choose one.
Okay.
But one thing that's wonderful is that I can walk out my door and be at the Rocky Branch Trail in 10
Yeah.
minutes. Take a nice walk. Takes me about an hour and a half from my front door to the end of the trail and back. And, what could be better than
that's
having
true.
the woods right there just to walk out into?
Well, the episode that we released yesterday was the Carolina Thread Trail.
Uh-huh.
And so that's a great point. Gaston County has actually more of the Carolina Thread Trail than I would have thought before doing some research. We actually have, and I think the ultimate goal is over 50 miles here in Gaston County. So, Cam, what about you? Favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County?
Definitely hiking, walking. My husband is an avid bird watcher. He's actually the #1 birder in Gaston County.
Oh,
so
wow.
occasionally,
That's
Steve
interesting.
Tracy,
Yeah.
I will go with him. So we do a lot of hiking because there are so many places just
Right.
to walk. And that's why I love plein air, too, because we can be outdoors
Oh, absolutely.
and hike to some of the places where we want to paint. Sometimes we have to hike quite a distance, especially the Seven Oaks Preserve Trail. But it's worth it when you get there.
Very good. I kind of left this one off on that same line. You have a favorite park here in Gaston County?
Oh, goodness.
Well,
That's a tough question, actually.
I think
We have so many.
We do.
Crowder's Mountain has been overtaken, but if you go during the week, I mean, there are little trails off to the side that have amazing views, and it's always a great place to go because you can see so much. There are lots of other great parks too.
There are, yeah, and that's a unique thing for to be a landlocked county, to have the lakes, the river, all the trails, and then Crowder's Mountain. It's very definitely unique. Cam, would you agree with that or
Love
something?
Crowder's Mountain. Wonderful. That was one of the reasons we moved here 35 years ago.
Oh, very good. So this is my selfish question that I add to every episode. So I'm going to start with you. UNC Duke or NC State?
No comment. I have to say, I went to university in England and married a soccer fan. And we never watched much basketball in my house, but I will say my mother was always a UNC fan, always. So I did watch a lot of Chapel Hill basketball growing up.
That's too bad.
I know.
Very good. So what, do you have like a Premier League team that you're a fan of?
Oh, well, the family is evenly divided between Manchester City and Manchester United.
Oh, wow.
We were in the United camp.
Okay, yeah, I bet that's the legit rivalry right there.
Right.
Like I actually went to one of my college roommates' mother was from Liverpool, so I got exposed almost 30 years ago now to English soccer or English football, and so I've been a fan ever since. And I love the Saturday morning and Sunday morning soccer, from England. So I am a big fan of that. And my kids, especially my girls, have played soccer forever.
Yeah.
And still have one playing because she's still in high school. Cam, what about you to that question? UNC Duke or NC State?
I would have to say UNC. We lived there in Chapel Hill for 5 years.
Okay.
So 2 of my family members actually went to school there. My husband did his residency, and our son went to school there.
Well,
Loved Chapel
that's
Hill.
2 unfortunate answers. I think this is the first time that we both of our guests have said UNC, so maybe we can edit that part out.
Well, I'll say state, too. I had one child go to state.
Oh, well, very good. Well, I think I say this every episode because I'm married to Tar Heel, and we have one at Western Carolina currently and one at Appalachian State currently. So we're all about local colleges. But again, that's just again, I appreciate you indulging me on that question. So Dot, I'll start with you on this one. What is something very few people know about you?
I'm pretty open.
That's not an appropriate answer. We're not going to let you off the hook on this one.
I have traveled extensively on a very, very low budget, sometimes not on my particular choice, but I can get you through third world countries cheaply should you ever choose to do that.
Okay, I'll remember that if I'm ever in need of those services. Cam, what about you? What is something very few people know about you?
Well, at one time, I was a volunteer chaplain at Caramont Hospital.
Oh, wow.
I have a background in chaplain ministry training. I was going to be a chaplain at the airport. However, the Art Guild presidency came about 4 years ago, so I kind of decide which one am I going to take. So I ended up being the president of the Art Guild. But I'm hoping to set back on my agenda and be an airport chaplain.
Interesting. Yeah, that's not...
Meet people.
That's a first for
Yes.
the answer to that question. So Cam, stay with you. Is there a book you would recommend or a blog you follow or article or anything that you would recommend to our listeners?
Oh, gosh, I probably read a lot of good stuff just on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, a lot of good articles just about Gaston County and what other people are doing in Gaston County for fun. I learn a lot.
That's a great point because
hiking and what's out there.
social media
experiences that people
social
share.
media gets a bad rap, but if you follow the right things and pay attention to the right things, there is a lot of good stuff out there. Thank you for sharing that. Dot, what about you?
I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell fan. And if listeners don't know him, I think he's most famous for The Tipping Point.
Yes, probably.
But he has a podcast that's very interesting, and also publishes most of his stuff on his website. So you can read a lot of articles on his website. Also,
the name of his podcast is something history. It's
something history. I can't remember
but
what it is.
It's like not the opposite of history, but unintended history or something like that. Yeah, it's really good. And I've read Outliers, which is an very interesting book of his. Yeah, I'm a fan of most of his stuff. Some of his stuff might be a little out there, but he's very interesting gentleman. So again, guys, I appreciate you indulging us on those kind of few questions about Gaston County. So we're got a few more questions and make sure our listeners get as much information as they can about the Art Guild. But Dot, maybe start with you. Besides the Art Guild, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
Well, I've lived here almost all my life, been a few other places, and ended up coming back here. But I just think there's so much to do, and there's so many wonderful people. I think we have become a very welcoming community, and people who come from somewhere else can step right in and be a part of what's going on here. And we've seen that in the Art Guild with a lot of people who are new to the community. And I know we're not alone. There are many other organizations that welcome new people and help them become a part of the community.
Very good. Cam, that might be a tough one to follow.
I would have to say people are very friendly here. I came from the Midwest.
Okay.
People are pretty friendly there, too. However, they're harder to get to know. In the South, they're very embracing, very inviting. The area is growing. It's becoming more diverse. I like the small-town atmosphere of Gaston County. We have, I believe, 15 municipalities.
It's a lot, yes.
A lot of municipalities. Yep. I've been to several of them during different work experiences that I have had. Very friendly place and absolutely gorgeous. When we're outdoors painting, it's just breathtaking. It's our happy place. So I love Gaston County. If you want to go to a big city, Charlotte's not very far away.
That's right. It's close enough. But you're right. I agree with that. It's close enough and close to the airport and close to uptown Charlotte, but it's not. But you still get the feel of the small town. So, Cam, if you weren't involved with the Art Guild, what would you think you would be doing?
Well, perhaps traveling a little bit more. As president, it does tend to tie you down a little bit. But actually, it's still COVID, so it's okay. Pandemic will pass at some point.
We hope so,
I'm hoping
yes.
to travel a little bit more. We do not have any family here. All of our family, including our children, live out of state right now.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to do some traveling. Maybe not so much overseas, but just local travel.
Very good. Dot, what about you?
Well, I like Cam, I'd like to travel more, but, we're staying in the country right now, too. But I've just been involved with the Thread Trail and the River Keeper.
Oh,
and,
yeah. We had John Searby on earlier, too, for an episode. So.
Just the group of people I met through Meetup and hiking has been absolutely phenomenal. And they also opened my eyes to what we have here, because most of them come from other states. And, you'll just post a hike for somewhere that you think is, everybody's been there. And they're just blown away. And that's been a great thing, is just to meet this amazing group of people who love to be outdoors and love to get out and do things.
I appreciate that, and I have learned a lot doing this podcast for the last few months. Things like, I had no idea the expanse of, say, the River Keeper or the Catawba Land Conservancy and the Thread Trail. I just had no idea of the regional, impact it has, and so I appreciate you sharing that. So this really is, I say this about a couple questions, but this really is my favorite question. So I'm gonna start with you, Dot. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? This isn't on video, but if we had video, you could see the look on Dot's face is like, oh no.
Well, I've studied Buddhism a good bit, and I have no regrets. I took off when I was 21. I decided to go to grad school in England. I didn't know anybody. I just got on a plane and went off, and it definitely made a difference in my life.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I think it's just a case of not being afraid to try things. Yeah. And I think as we get older, a lot of times we get stuck in our ways. So my 20-year-old self was willing to do that, and my 70-year-old self might not be quite so willing, but I need to be a little bit more willing to take chances.
Oh, well, that's terrific. It's a terrific answer. Cam, what about you?
Well, just be open to change.
Okay.
And keep learning. I've always just loved to learn, read books, travel as much as I can. Just get out, meet people, talk to people. That's why I love working at the Chamber, because I met so many different people.
Yeah, right.
Basically, the Art Guild offers that opportunity too.
Yes.
So just get out and talk to people, engage with them, get them excited about Gaston County and all the amenities that we do have here. So much going on.
Well, again, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I don't remember who said this, but I'm a big quote guy and I read a lot, but one of the quotes I said to your point about always learning is, I think someone said, don't let school get in the way of your education, because you learn so many things away from formal schooling or whatever you would like to call that. So this has been really good. So where can listeners go to learn about the organization, I think, get involved, maybe contact you guys directly, so just to make sure that we get this in the show notes so everybody knows where to go. I know there's a great website, and maybe, I think you mentioned you were rebuilding the website or coming up with new one, but what's the actual website URL?
GastonCountyArtGuild.org. Yes, you can check it out, and you'll see our newsletter and some other facts about us.
And is that where they can go to see events and things coming up and what's going on right now with exhibits maybe in different locations and schedules? Okay.
Yes. And for $25 you can join and you'll get the newsletter. And
okay. Well, very good.
Artist.
Yeah. Well, hopefully somebody's listening and maybe doesn't know anything about, or not anything, but maybe there are some listeners that might not know anything about the Art Guild. I know a little bit about it. I think it seems like when I was president of the Rotary Club, one of our projects at the time, we did some renovation work and painting at Arts on Main. So, I think that was my probably personal first exposure to that location and kind of what you guys were doing. So, guys, this has really been good. I appreciate your time. And so something I try to do every week is do my own book recommendation and a quote or thought for the week. So this week I'm sticking with a classic, what I call maybe one of the classic personal development books by a gentleman named Norman Vincent Peale. He wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking. I just think, especially the times we are living in now, that maybe we could all use a little bit more of that. And I'm not talking about, there's a lot of heavy things going on around, but if you can keep a positive outlook, but that's a good gentleman to follow and research. And I guess one of my favorite, maybe older books, I would say. And my quote of the week kind of ties in with what we're talking about today, but it's about taking action. And from Arthur Ashe said, "Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can." So don't wait for the time to be perfect to go do something, to take action. Don't wait for the time to be right to fly to England when you're 20 or 21. You never know what might come of that. So again, just don't wait for everything to be perfect. So again, thank you to our listeners for this week, for taking the time to listen to our episode today. Please spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. Have we got any emails recently? Some of our listeners just email us to make us feel good. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, and please follow us on our social media platforms. You can also find us and subscribe and rate the show on most podcast services such as iTunes, Spotify, and Google. Thanks again to Cam and Dot from the Gaston County Art Guild for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amy Anderson and Elizabeth King from GSM Services, and edited here locally by the Sumner Group. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.